Nate's come out with another awesome tool for the swimming community. It's called Swim Nerd Live, and it allows the data and times from your actual scoreboard to be broadcast and viewed in real time on any smart TV, phone, or other device. It has all the information you're looking for: event, heat, lane, name of swimmer, times and places. One click on any device and they're watching your swim meet live in real time. Go to swimpractice.com to learn more. Chico Rego, how are you, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Like that little intro?
Yeah, it's new. I was waiting the beat.
I'm trying out a new platform, man. You're the first person on the platform, and there's a crowd as well.
That's great. That's great.
It's all good, man. How you doing?
Good, pretty good. I'm honored to be here, though. I told you this before. It's amazing to be part of this.
Oh, well, listen, man, you've got an incredible story. I think one that needs to be told. Look, I get questions all the time from people overseas asking me, hey, Brett, how can I get to America? How can I coach in America? And there's no real simple answer to that question. But I think if people listen and study your story, maybe there's a way in that you can kind of help them with, because you had the same question, right?
There was a question.
So we met at a coaches forum, coaches clinic, coaches educational series down in Brazil. They asked me to come down. I believe it was it 2015 or 2014? 2014.
You were there at Thanksgiving 2014.
Thanksgiving 2014. They asked me to come down for 5 days and do a coaches seminar, help educate coaches, or have conversations with coaches. And you were part of that group. How many were in that group at the time?
Total was, I think, 121, but between swimming, gymnastics, and track and field. For swimming, it was, I would say, 40, and then 20 were like kind of developmental group, and 20 or the high performance group. And I was part of the high performance group.
And so what was it you guys were doing at the time? What were you getting?
It was called the Brazilian Coaches Academy. It was kind of like the Olympic Committee put together it was 2 years, a 2-year course. Actually, there was enough like hours to be considered a master's degree, but didn't have the certification to be a master's degree. Right. And then but it was classes, like it was pretty much like a specialization course in high performance sport, we would say.
Right. So yeah, I came down for the last part of that where you guys were finishing off the certification, and I met with the 20 coaches, and they're all very high level coaches in Brazil. Some of the best coaches in the world, really, in swimming. And so how did you end up getting selected into that group?
So I got in maybe kind of like last minute. It was something like we went through a test, and the test was fine, but like at the time I didn't have that many results like in my career compared to some other coaches to be selected. And then Ricardo de Moura was at the time the federation like head of swimming. He had 2 spots to fill in with people that he would kind of like maybe consider like promising coaches or something. And then he picked me and as one, like, so I got in. I did have a couple national medals at the time and all that kind of stuff, but like nothing that was like too expressive. So I got in as like a promising coach, someone that would like to develop with all the high level coaches that were there, like people with world records, like world championship medals and all that kind of stuff. So I was part of that kind of like as a promise. So yeah, that's how I got selected.
Right. Awesome. And so I go down there for the course, and it was great, interacting with all the coaches and stuff. But there was a particular day where you had approached me and basically said, hey, I want to be a coach in America. How can I do it? Right.
I was applying to jobs and stuff, like, and of course, like nobody would hire a foreigner with no visa, no anything. It's not a liability, but like it's just like a lot of bureaucracy that you have to go to bring someone from outside of the U.S. to work here. But like, and then I did approach you and asked like, how do you do? And then you told me that, so yeah, okay, it'll be hard to come in as a someone full-time hired. And I remember asking you, oh, what about as a volunteer? And then your answer was like, well, volunteer is easy. I have a spot for you. Do you want? And I'm like, what? And then I call my mom, and because like we had so my dad died in 1990, and the life insurance money came in 2014. So that money was sitting there for a while. So I was about to open a functional training gym back home, because swimming in Brazil doesn't, it's really hard to work full time in swimming. There's only a few coaches there. You got to do something else to make money. So about to open a gym. So I had some money sitting, and I called my mom. So like, this guy here said if I want to go to Auburn to be a volunteer with them, I can. What do you think? And she's like, is that what you want to do for your life? I think you should go. So I ended up, in the meantime, like some other kind of like possibilities came in. There was a possibility with going to Switzerland and all that kind of stuff. But like, I applied to the English course there to go in with a student visa, and I showed up in March 7th. I was on campus.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things I said to you. I said, look, I have a volunteer position available. I actually have a GA position available as well, where, you know, you can study. I can help you study if you're interested in that. And I think at the time you weren't super interested in studying. You wanted to be a coach, but you were certainly looking for a way in. And I thought, well, this is an easy way in for me. I can bring you on as a graduate assistant. You can get a master's degree, and you can volunteer helping out the team at the same time. So I just said I basically just put it all on you. I just said, look, if you want to do this, I'm the head coach at Auburn University, and you want to do it, then make it happen. And then I remember it was just a couple of months later, like you said, where I get this email from you, and you're basically like, hey, I'm coming. And I was like, wow, like I couldn't believe that somebody had actually gone through with the process of doing this. And so I had to obviously honor my situation. I just, if you can get into school. So what was the process like for actually getting into school?
You're right. I didn't even think about, because in my head was like, kind of like, now looking back now, it's kind of silly. Like I thought, like, yeah, 3 months as a volunteer in Auburn, like English course will be done. 3 months as a volunteer, I'll be applying for jobs and people will get me in. But it's like, it's not how it works. Like you gotta have a work visa and everything. And then I remember one of the GAs was done, and then I asked you on the pool decks, like, hey, how does GA position truly works? And then you basically said kind of like, yeah, get into grad school and the position's yours. And right after that practice, we were at practice, and right after that, I walk up to the kinesiology department, which is right behind the pool. And then I knock on the door of Dr. Rudsell, which is the director of kinesiology. She never saw me in her life. And I poke my head in and said, like, do you have a minute? And it's like, I'm Chico. Like, I'm from Brazil. Like, Brett down there said if I got in grad school, I have a GA position. Like, how do I do to get in? And then she, oh, you want to get in? So you got to take the GRE and apply. What's your background? Say, I have a degree in physical education. So I have all like the needs for kinesiology to the prerequisitions for kinesiology. And then she said, all right, apply and then take the GRE and we go from there, get like recommendations letter, whatever. And then I guess you wrote a recommendation letter, Ozzy, and then one of the English teachers that I have at the time. Like 2 weeks later, this was probably like, I don't know, maybe this was like early April. 2 weeks later, I took the GRE, and then 2 weeks after that, I got accepted in grad school.
Wow.
So it was something quick. And I remember you telling me, so like, dude, like, I was not sure if we get in because people take a year to do that. And I'm saying, like, nobody never told me that take that long. So I just figured out a way. So that was basically it. That's how I got in school there.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. It did happen fast. I remember thinking to myself, there's no way this guy's going to get into grad school in a couple months. And then boom, you knocked, a month. You knocked on the right doors. You talked to the right people. You were asking people for recommendations, and the process just happened quick. And then next minute, you're accepted into grad school. What was the program you got accepted into?
It was exercise science with a concentration in exercise physiology. So it was a 2 years master degree there, which originally I would do with a thesis, because back home, like, to validate, you need to have like a thesis or dissertation, whatever you want to call it there. But then, I mean, it would be too complicated. And being really honest, like, research is, I use research a lot. I read research a lot, but doing research is not much my thing. There's a lot involved there that, like, it doesn't attract me. So it will not be something that I would be willing to do. So I dropped the thesis, ended up being a non-thesis master's degree. Yeah.
Right. Now, the process in America is that if you get accepted into a GA program through one of the athletic programs, did Auburn University end up paying for your degree?
They did. Yeah, you did. So it is a full tuition, right? And you get a stipend with that. So which in Auburn, like I remember, I think that time was like $10,000 a year, and then I think on the second year I asked you for a little raise, and then like it helped because Auburn, it was cheap, so it was easy, but like I just needed a little bit more because I was cutting in very close and asking money from my mom almost every other month. So the little more helped, and then so yeah, that was basically it.
So in order to stay in America, then you were using this student visa because you're studying full time, right?
So yeah, so what happened was like once you're done, like so yeah, because I did the masters and everything, and then finished in August 2017. And then once you're done on a student visa, you can go to something that's called like the OPT, which is optional practical training, that you can work with anything related to the degree that you got. So I got a degree in exercise science, anything swimming, it's related to that degree. And then because it's under the STEM, because it's a science degree, like you can extend that for other 2 years. So I stayed on a student visa for pretty much almost 3 years. No, 5 years, almost the whole. I got my green card a year ago. So since March 2015 up to a year ago, it was a student visa. So yeah.
Wow, it's complex, but
it was worth it.
It's worth it. How old were you when you started this process?
How old was I?
Yeah.
So, well, November 2014, I was 26. I got in Auburn 3 days before my 27th birthday.
Okay, so you're young, you know, you're not 21, 22 and just trying to establish yourself. You'd already been a coach in Brazil. You'd already gone through all the necessary requirements to be a top level coach. So this is a big move to come to America and study and be living off $10,000 a year. It's pretty big commitment too. It
was, and then when I said like it was a couple steps back to 1,000 steps forward, because yes, like I left Brazil. I had maybe at the time maybe like 15 national medals as a coach, and I was coaching on the national level for like I would say maybe like almost 9 years. Almost 7 years or something, because I started coaching pretty young, like different here, like every 16-year-old coach like a summer team or something like that. Back home is not how it works. You got to have a physical education degree to work and everything. And then I went a little bit against the grain. Like I started coaching when I was 18. So I got there like with 9 years of coaching already, like on my back. And then it going in to be like a GA, which is not the bottom of the food chain, but like you're more of a helper. Like you help the team more than actually, like you're not on deck, you're not doing anything, but like it was a couple steps back, but like it showed me the business. And I think I remember talking this to you, because like making people swim fast I already knew, but like the backstage of the business, I didn't know that. So I learned a lot during those 2 years, and to do what I do today, like I would not be able to do what I do today if it wasn't those 2 years as a GA there.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible the way that you did it, but it just goes to show you what you can do. Like, look where you are now. You got this Georgia Tech symbol on your shirt. You've been an assistant coach there for a few years now. We'll get into that, but it's such a path, you know, from where you started to where you are now, and then where you could possibly be in 10 years from now. Who knows that? But I like to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast a lot, and a lot of my inspiration has come from his podcast. And I was listening to him yesterday, and he was talking about comedians who start basically as bartenders and end up, you know, being headline comedians at, you know, some of the top, you know, stadiums and things like this. You know, it's incredible to see their progression from where they started to where they are now. And it really takes me back to your story in terms of, like you said, taking a few steps back to take 1,000 steps forward in this process. When you were a GA at Auburn, what are things that you learned about the business that you really didn't know beforehand?
It was not only the business, it was a lot. the culture too, like the American culture in the sport too. You know, like from like managing the travel to khaki pants. You know, like all that kind of stuff that like it's not common back home. So it was really important to know like to the professionalism and like even the way to dress, the way to address things, and then all the way to like how to prepare and manage a trip for like 40 no for how many we had like SMCs. We used to go like with 70, I mean it was 60 people, something like that, including staff and whatever. You know, so it was those type of things that were very, very important. And then I give like here and there, I text Stephanie Tuvey, which was the director of operations at the time, that was directly above me. And then I'm really grateful for all the butt heads that we had at the time. And nowadays, like really good friends, but like it was, she put me in line, you know, the stuff that I of course, like I was a little bit older already, like with some professional experience before. And then in my head, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are we doing this? And then she said, like, culturally and everything, this is how we do things here. And then it was very important to learn that, you know, like to pay attention to those things. And even like going to like nowadays to recruiting, how we did, like how we did our recruiting weekends there, how we interact with the athletes there. What are the things that like you want to look for? I picked on those things too. There's stuff that I use nowadays as well, you know, like, so it's hard to pinpoint one thing because there were so many things. And then it's basically everything that I do now that is outside of the pool deck came from those 2 years there.
But it is incredible how much detail and how much work goes in off the pool deck, right? A lot of times we think of ourselves as coaches and we love to call ourselves coaches, but there's so much management that goes into a big program like Georgia Tech right now. You know, you guys have a men's and women's program. You have a head coach, assistant coach, diving coach. You have managers, I'm sure, and then you have some athletes that have finished their degree, and you would call them kind of professional athletes that are hanging around training for the Olympic Games as well. So it's all inclusive. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes, right? Yeah,
it's a lot. And then, I mean, and take making the machine run, like it's like, again, fast swimming, I think, is the easiest part of the job technically, because like this is like what we do and what we have the passion to do and everything. But like the business, the bureaucratic part of it, and then the compliance and all the kind of stuff that you got to be on top of all the time. Those little pieces are like are the things that I had to learn pretty well, because like we don't have this back home, you know, like the system doesn't work like this back home. It's different. Like you basically walk in, you coach your people, and you walk out, and then there's someone that will do the travel there, like when needed, if needed, because there's no team travel most of the times. Like people pay for the travels or something, and then there's someone that will deal with equipment. There's someone who will do anything. You just walk in, coach, walk out. That's pretty much it. So
now, were there people back home at the time of the decision who were like, "You're crazy! Like, why would you do something like that?"
Yes, but in terms of like, you're crazy, but I admire your courage most of the times.
Right.
You know, it was not that many people like, I don't think you should go, because a lot of people back home, like especially in Rio, because swimming in Rio was starting to go down a little bit. People went out of there, and then I knew, so my personal goal, that's to put someone on the games that eventually one day make to go to the games as a coach. Like the chances for me to doing that there, I might have like get out of the profession before that happening. So a lot of people say like, dude, like I cannot do it, but I admire your courage. You know, I admire you going after your goals. So that's basically what the majority of the people were saying. But family was, everybody was super excited. So we're like, it's more like the friends were more like this.
And what were the challenges of actually doing the degree itself? Was that tough at the time?
The language in the beginning was a little bit, because like, I mean, I was out of school at that time for like, I graduated in college in 2009. So I was back in August 2015. So it was like pretty much 6 years
right
out of school. And then you go to study something in a different language. So, and I mean, my English was okay at the time. Like it's better now since I met Kat, and like I married an American. So
it was pretty bad. Your English was bad.
It was, yeah, I know. I remember like you had a hard time understanding me to say Fahrenheit. You could not understand what I was saying. Yeah. But it was rough, and then it was hard in the beginning. It was, I remember, like, used to, my forehead used to be sore. There's like 15 minutes of you like with this expression, like, what the hell are they talking about? You know, like, and then you leave the class, you're like, what's going on? And so that was tough. The language was tough in the beginning, and then manage at some points manage the workload with the team, plus the workload with the academics was a bit tough at some points. You know, like I have sometimes I struggle with that a little bit, but like it went by. But there were some other classes too that was like really, really easy. So it was not. It was, there was tough times, but it was not overall that bad.
What are you proud of when you look back on that experience just in those few years? What are you most proud of about yourself?
That I made out of it, because I could have given up. Like the 1 year mark was tough. It was really, really, really tough.
Why? Tell me why.
It's just like for being away from the family, and then like, and the biggest thing was like when I got there was still like the Science to No Borders program from the Brazilian government was working. So there was like 150 Brazilians in Auburn, and then there was a big community and everything. So, and then my first month, I was like completely alone there. Just had like you guys and like some of the pros that were there with the team. But like, and when I met the Brazilians, and then, but in December of 2015, the program was shut down. So everybody was gone. So a majority of my friends were gone. And then the people that were like Americans or other foreigners that were studying at university that I connect with, the majority of them was seniors. So they were also graduating and leaving in March and all that kind of stuff. So when it came March 2016, there was barely alone again. It was rough. It was very rough. Cause like, and I'm a very social person. Like I'm like, I make friends very easy, but like, it was just like seeing everybody leaving, and then I was alone again. That was the toughest part for me. So getting out of that, kind of like being able to survive, like quote unquote survive that situation, kind of it makes me like, yeah, like I made it out. And then now, like, I mean, just the path itself, like I said, coming in steps back, like being a GA that I did, like from like equipment inventory to cleaning golf carts up to like be where I'm at right now, and then like the achievements that I got right now. Like the whole path itself, like kind of like makes me happy and proud, and makes me emotional too. Like it takes like it takes a little bit. Like I need to control, because it's when I start crying again, because I'm a very emotional person. But just like, yeah, it mostly the path.
But that's the thing, right? Like I think part of it is, like you said, starting from the bottom. They call it the bottom or what have you, but it's basically you're doing the grunt work. You're in there, like you said, cleaning golf carts. You're trying to do whatever you can to enhance the program. And I think there's a requirement as well that comes with, you know, getting this education from the university where they're paying for your degree. There's an expectation that you're supposed to work so many hours, right? I think, you know, you're
4 hours a day, something like that. Yeah. Is that 20 hours a week? That's what it was. 20 hours a week.
20 hours a week. Yeah, we kept you to 20 hours for sure, right? a few more maybe, but yeah, I mean, you're learning everything, and I think that's part of the experience, is to say like, yeah, this is going to be a tough few years. I'm studying, and I'm in this organization where I'm basically just doing the grunt work, and if you can make it out of that, I think there's an amazing light at the end of the tunnel. So, did you end up meeting your future wife at Auburn?
Yes, I met. She was in vet school there at the time. So yeah, that's how we met. And we actually met through Tinder though, because we were too old for the city. So technically, because like the average age in Auburn is like 21 years old, and then she's like a year younger than me. So Kat will be 32 in 2 months. So, and I'm 33. So we met through there, yeah. And then like, I mean, we moved in together in Auburn still, and then we start making the plans out of there.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you actually do finish your degree, what happens after that?
Then I start applying for jobs, and it was kind of like, so so I did my first job application. So I graduated in August 2017, and I did my first job application in probably February 2017. And then looking back now, what I see, like I did a total of 36 job applications that year, where 4 were for club and 32 for colleges. I got, out of the 36, I got 4 phone interviews, and then 1 in-person interview with a college and 1 in-person interview with a club. So I ended up going to Team Greenville, but this was just in January. So what happened was I graduated, and then through the process of applying for jobs and everything, I started working with Opelika swim team,
right,
and still being a volunteer with you guys. Like I went back to be a volunteer assistant coach, and that's when I work with Sergio a lot for with the pros. Then like I have a pretty good work with Marcelo at the time, because it was like 3 breaststrokers and 1 freestyler on that group. So I used to stay with Marcelo a good amount of time.
Cherry.
Yes, yeah, with Cherry. So yeah, and then ended up going to Santa Clara with him. Was awesome. Like it was a good experience to work with that group of guys. And then I was working with the Opelika swim team, which was an awesome experience too. Like because they always had like just rotate a revolving door of coaches. There were people that were at the university, like just like coming as a part-time to being coaches. And then for the first time, they had someone that like, yeah, this is what I wanted to do for my life. I want to be a coach. They knew it would be temporary because I was looking for something bigger.
Right.
Like, but the feedback that I got from them, and to this day, like a lot of like the parents on that team still talk to me, still text me, and then it's kind of cool the impact that caused there, and then I was happy with that. And then I went to Team Greenville in January 2018.
South Carolina.
Yes, in South Carolina, which was like an amazing experience, because there was a true, like a team with structure, a lot of people. Like we had like 270 athletes, kids or something like that. And then I coached there the top 11, 12, and the top 13, 14 blend with the second tier 15, 16.
Who was the person that actually gave you the job?
Was Carl Kozicki, yeah, which is a very, very good friend now. Like he's the head coach there. At the time, he's still the head coach there, and then we at least once a month we have an hour conversation on the phone, because like we just like catch up and everything. So yeah, he was the one who gave me the job there. Like he liked the resume, like my energy and everything, and then I stayed there for a year and a half, and it was awesome, man. Like I mean, it's the same thing, like the impact, and then the cool thing with working the clubs here, because whether you want or not, like there is a little bit like of like, yeah, you were a foreigner, like your culture is different. So do I need to adapt to the culture like completely, or I can still bring some of my essence in? And then I did a bit of both, and bring a bit of my essence, like the way to talk to people, the way to care about people. And then that made a huge impact. Like that made like and I'm saying this not because I think it is, it's the feedback I got from the parents, like it's just that's what I heard from the parents. So that's the priceless part of the job, when you get the like the recognition and without asking for it.
Right. Yeah. Well, good for him for taking a chance on, a foreign coach with very little experience in the U.S. at least, anyway, and giving you a start there. And that start was priceless in terms of your next step. I mean, what was the feedback that you were getting from college coaches at the time? Why weren't they prepared to take a shot at you?
Brad, I'll tell you, I wish I knew, because like.
What do you think it was? Do you think it was lack of maybe recruiting experience that they were afraid?
I guess that's what people were more afraid of, like, cause like when they see, yeah, you were a volunteer in Auburn and everything, but like when they see, like a foreigner, like that, like I didn't swim in college. Just for that, I was a terrible swimmer, so didn't swim in college and everything, so didn't have their experience. And then I mean, I think that was one of the biggest things. And then the only feedback, like true feedback that I got from one of the jobs is like my resume looked more like I was a breaststroke coach, which was, I mean, I was lucky enough to have good breaststrokers in my hand. It was not that like I develop them. Like they were good breaststrokers and I make them faster. That's fine. But like,
who were the breaststrokers that you had on the list?
this was back home. It was, I mean, most of my medals was breaststrokes. And like my first national medal as a coach was in a 200 breaststroke. And then I coached other 2 girls that like in a span of like 3 years medal in every single 100, 200 breaststroke back home.
Right.
But again, they were talent, you know, like that. And then I was given the breaststroke group in one of the clubs that I worked, you know. So and then and here like they start labeling you with that. And then by the end of the day, like I'm a swim coach, you know, like my brain works about the sport, not about the event. So and that's one of the things that I think it hit the most. And then I mean, for Carl there, like he saw the experience, he saw that like the background as a club in Brazil, it was something that he took the risk for too, you know. So I think that's the bare truth is like people are not willing to take the risk.
Right. So then you're there for a year and a half, and obviously you want to get into college. So how did you end up at Georgia Tech?
Pretty much the same way it ended up in the U.S. I asked.
Never forget to ask. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's I go by the mantra like you already have the no. You know, the only thing that might happen is you gonna keep the no. So one day I walk on the pool deck. It was already during the summer. And then I see the tall lady on the other side of the pool deck. I said, like, oh, I think I know who she is. And then ring the bell. Yeah, it's Courtney Shirley Hart. And then she was recruiting at Team Greenville. And then I talked to her a little bit and then, like, just introduced myself. And then we were talking because she had already Caio and Rod here, like 2 Brazilians on the team. And we we're talking about Brazilian recruiting and all that kind of stuff. And then she was talking about the program. And then she mentioned that they just got the 5th position. This was 2019. She just got the 5th position accepted, and then that stayed on my head. And then she leaves and everything. I got her phone number because of like one of the Brazilian kid that was trying to find a college in the U.S. and everything. And then that stuck in my head, and I'm like, I mean, this might be a sign, you know. And then I walked away with practice that day, and I got home and I talked to Kat, my wife. I said like, she was there saying like had a position and everything. I said, what do you think? And then she was like, go ahead. I mean, there's nothing to lose. So I text Courtney, said like, hey, you mentioned like you had a position open, like I'm interested. And then was a month after, because that position she already was pretty far along in the process. And then a month after they had a coach leave, and then she texted me back. She's like, hey, I wanted to get on the phone with you because I have a position open here and I want to see if you're interested. And then heart pounding and everything because I knew what that meant, you know. So, and then I got on the phone with her. She's like, I want to bring you down for the interview. But like I had zone championship and NCSAs back to back. So I was talking on the phone. It was 2 weeks. I went to Indianapolis for NCSAs. And then the same night I drove back from Indianapolis, got my car in Greenville and drove to Atlanta for the interview the next day. And then it happened. I mean, stayed in a hotel here, woke up at 5 a.m, like nervous, like for the interview and everything. But like it happened, but because I asked.
Wow, that's a cool part of the story too, man. That I didn't fully know all the details to that as well. But
and of course, like she contacted you, contacted Ozzy and right. Tyler and everything. But like you guys are also part of that process to happen. But like I asked, that was the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, she did her due diligence after, you know, the interest, and then I told her that you're a hard worker, you're a smart coach, and I just gave her the truth, and it ended up being a situation where now you're at one of the top schools in the country, man. I mean, it's an incredible story. Thinking back to where you and I were back in Brazil at this coach's clinic, and now here you are living out your dream, man, of coaching in college. It's a long road, but it's certainly one that is doable. And that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show today, is to kind of set out the path of like, this can be done, but it's not an easy road. And I think one of the things that's really impressive about you is just you never gave up on your dream. You know, it was always like, this is what I see for myself. And while doors may not be opening right now, eventually something's going to open if I keep asking and keep asking and keep asking. And that's really what happened in the end, hey?
Yeah, I mean, it truly keep knocking on the doors. That's why I got the majority of the things. I just knock and sometimes it opens for sure. Yes, and then And I think one of the biggest thing is like, I know it's semantics, but like for me, I changed. In the beginning, I used to say that was a dream, and then I changed it to start saying that it was a goal, you know, because like you got to work to achieve a goal, you know. A dream you can sleep and it will happen, but like you got to work for achieve the goal. And then that's how I started approaching, like after the year one, that was hard, that hard part. Like I changed some mindsets, and that made a difference, you know. And then and then stop saying sacrifice and start saying choices, and then stop saying dream, start saying goal. And those little things kept me pushing, and then made me really resilient, like in terms of like, I mean, I cannot complain about it. I chose this, you know, like I cannot be mad about it. Like it's part of the process. So those little things, it helps to keep you moving forward, because there will be 1,000 obstacles on the way for sure, like, and stuff that like if you sit like and whine about it or simmer on it, like you're gonna be destroyed, like you're gonna give up. But like I change it to be on this way, so I can always keep pushing forward, because I'm lucky enough to be. I tell this, like I don't have a good physical endurance. I'm not that physical, but my emotional endurance, like after some point, like I discovered that my emotional endurance is really, really hard. So I can take a lot of the stuff, and that's what made me keep moving forward. I think that's one of the things that make me get this far now. It's just like I endure a lot of things that, like, I don't know if maybe some people would have give up.
I like that. That emotional endurance. But I like the way that you change your language too, and the way that you were speaking to yourself, especially that you changed it in English too. You know, you didn't change it in Japanese. But, you know, you start using different words, and it starts carrying you different places. You know, they talk about endurance, and the people that are focused on the end result end up being the ones that quit first. You know, the ones that focus on what's right in front of them now, what's the next step, what's the next day, and continuing to focus on the smaller goals end up being in the place that they want to be in the end.
Yeah, and that's exactly, and even now here, like that's one of the things that we that we deal with, you know, like yes, like we want to be on the top of the NCAAs and all that kind of stuff, but like there's a path between here and there. Right. So we what is next? It's always this, like let's drop the next one, drop the next one, drops the next one at a time, and then eventually you get there. So and that's definitely how I got here. Like I said, like yeah, like I want to go to a college to coach in college. It didn't happen. Okay, let's go back down in club. I'm going to destroy this part here. I'm going to be the best that I can be, and then move to the next. Now I got here, like in a Power 5 school, exactly what I want to be. Now let's make like the main goal.
So what's your role now at Georgia Tech?
So now, I mean, I coach here now. What we have is called the hybrid group, which is mainly the IMers and then 200 stroke and some 500 freestylers. So I have a couple of good people that train me. It's a very fun group to work with. A lot of like strong, hard workers. And then as of February, I became the recruit coordinator. So I'm taking care of recruiting right now. So for this class of
both men and women.
Sorry.
Both men and women.
Both men and women. Yes. The whole thing. So it's fun. I mean, it's a piece that like I end up loving to do. And I, like I said, like we talk, I didn't have the recruiting experience other than like dealing with recruiting on campus and stuff like this when we were in Auburn. But like when I came in here, like I jumped head first, and then I like people, man. I like to talk to people and everything. So it was a piece that like I love doing. I love doing.
Talk to me about that, actually. Like, what does a recruiting coordinator look like at a major university? What do you do? Like, what's the role?
Pretty much the strategy of like what we need to feel, like what we need out of this class, like who we want to talk to, who is contacting who. So all that kind of stuff. So what I'm for example, like right now, what I'm doing, We finalizing our class of 2022, so I'm picking the little spots, the people that we're talking to, and the little that we have left to fill up, and then I'm preparing the class of 2023, picking like who is interested in us, like who is like has standards like that can swim for us, like time's good enough to swim for us and everything. So it's a bit of a labor, but like I enjoy doing it. I have to sometimes turning off my computer and get off of college swimming because like it's like a video game for me. I like to play in that thing and seeing the numbers, see who's getting better, and then see who we can contact and all that kind of stuff. And then my wife calls me out sometimes, say like, "Hey, can you stop doing that for a second?" Because I'm sitting at home and then digging on college swimming or something like that. So
yeah, never ends.
Yeah, it's just, I drift away.
In terms of the kids, what is some advice you would give to them to be noticed by a school like yours?
I mean, of course, fast swimming, it's the easiest part of it, of course, but like it's the contact, you know, like reach out, like talk to us, talk to whatever the school that you want to go to, you know, like it's
how do they reach out?
Emails, it's fine. I mean, Instagram, I've been reached out by many different ways, like Instagram, email, straight up phone message. Like many different ways, like, but I guess the easiest way now is always like emails. It's pretty easy. And then, I mean,
is your email and phone number, your email, I'm sure, but is your phone number on the website for Georgia Tech?
I'm not sure. I believe it is. Right. Yeah, but it's my 404 number, but like, I believe it is.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
It definitely is.
Now, you also had some success just recently by qualifying your first Olympic athlete for Brazil, right?
Yeah, it did. It was maybe one of the most intense emotions that I ever had in my life, for sure.
Talk to me about it. What happened?
Yeah. It was. I'll be honest. Like we of course we're happy. Like Kyle and I, like we made the games. Like went there as the second best time ever and everything, but we were not satisfied because like
who was it? Which athlete?
Sorry,
which athlete was it?
Caio Pumputis.
Okay.
200 IMer. He's the ACC champion in 200 IM and ACC record holder in the 200 breaststroke. So we went in with a fair shot of making 3 events, and we made 1. So it's a bit frustrating there, but like that apart, like now we have the 200 IM, and then we're gonna like work hard enough to be a top contender on that race for sure. Because like I mean, you don't go to the games to participate; you go to the games to make something. So yeah, and then the frustration, the whole thing was like it started with the 100 breast on the first day, and then he swam well, but like we know that one was a fair shot because the 100 breast in Brazil, it's just like an insane fast race. And then, but it was a good race. And then the 200 breaststroke, he was on track to swim under the cut up to the 175, and then it hit it hard on the last 25, and then it was a bit off of the time, and then it was frustrating. But like we turn around the next day and then swim lights out in the 200 IM, and then qualified like more than a second under the cut. And then it's coming in with like inside the top 15 in the world right now. So it's a fair shot. So that's what we're going to work for now.
What's your advice? What did you do coaching wise when you have that disappointment the day before, and then you know one of your top events is coming up the next day, and that's one of your last chances to qualify for the Olympic Games? Like, what do you do in that situation?
I'll be really honest, but I think it's more like just like get up, shake it off, on to the next, you know, like one at a time. You got to be one at a time. And then it doesn't mean
be led by you initially, right? Like as a coach, you want them to express the same emotions and feelings. You know, so you're projecting that onto them. It's like, hey, let's take this off, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was exactly what happened. Like we were okay with the 100 breaststroke, especially because there was some like weather conditions there that didn't help. The 200 breaststroke was right before the 200 IM. It was a bit of an impact, and then we did grief that a little bit there. Like we did like, yeah, like I mean, got upset at it, but like the next morning it was a different day, you know, like, and we got in, and then like we put the strategy in. Kyle put the strategy. He want to be on lane 1 to be able to see the whole field and everything. And then that happened at night, and then in the morning, and then we went for the finals at night. Like the mindset was like, nobody's taking this away from me, not even myself. And then he did it, and that's kind of like where we put it on. And then it happens. It's mainly kind of like it's okay to be upset. It's okay to grieve like something that happened, but you cannot leave, like you cannot simmer on that, because that will definitely like track the rest of your meat down, and potentially your whole career, depending on who it is. Because like you didn't make the games that once, and then you're gonna be upset for the rest of your life with that thing, and then what's next? You'll be done. So you got to put like a deadline on your upsetness. Let's put it this way, you know.
Now, this is his first Olympics?
Yes, it is his first Olympics.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, I haven't selected the coaching staff yet. Are you a consideration for that?
Most likely not, because one, like there was some they had something, I think they called like the large list that you had to send to the committee, and then they didn't include my name there for whatever reason. I think it went just like unnoticed or something. And then and I guess like they're only taking 4 coaches, so it will be the top 4 whatever the rankings that they're gonna take out of there. And then Caio, I think, is sitting at 6th right now between the Brazilians. So most likely I will not be going, which I'll be really honest. Like I was kind of like in the first couple of days, I was kind of like, man, like that sucks. But like I went back. It was funny because I went back to my letter of intent to the master's degree, and what I say there on my letter of intent is like, it's not that I want to go to the games. I want to take people to the games. I want to put people on the games. And then after reading that again, like from 5 years ago, I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm doing the right thing. So it's not for me. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm going to the games or not. What matters is like what he's gonna take out of it. Because hopefully I will coach for the last day of my life, so I'll have other opportunities. I mean, maybe for him this is the first one, and then he'll have at some point he'll have to stop swimming, because everybody stops one day.
Right.
So it's for them. It's not for me.
All right. That's another good way to look at it too, because you're going to have many more to come from this.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to me about Georgia Tech just quickly then. What is it about the school that you love, that is attractive, that you think you guys can break into the top 10 in the country?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's the given, right? Kind of like the academics, like Atlanta and all that kind of. This is a given. Like it's here. Like doesn't matter what you do, it will always be here. For us, and for me personally, like the main thing for me here, and then it's something that's like I don't want to be anywhere else, because like the coaching staff here, we are truly good friends with each other. Like we are a family to each other. We do like hang out at each other's houses and go to breakfast and stuff like that. So this is something that like it makes the whole difference for us as coaches, and it does pass along to the team, because people see that there's no way, like they see the interaction, you know, so they see that it's for real. So, and with that, like the energy that we have here, like that we do, like, I mean, Courtney's a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. Mike has been in Impact teams and everything. So we're competitive. Like we're really, really competitive, you know? So it's coming along. Like the recruiting it's getting a little better. We're getting better recruits and everything. Like we have incoming freshmen that already qualified for the games coming in on this next class and all that kind of stuff. So this will help to pull it up, and it's been happening. Like we jumped from 24th in 2019 to 21st. This NCAA is now. The women finish on the 28th, which is the highest finish ever for the school. So it's coming along little by little, and it's mainly, I think it goes mainly by the coaching staff and the people that are here, you know.
Yeah.
By the end of the day, like I believe it's all about the people, you know. As long as you're happy, like and of course, like the training and everything makes the difference. But like if you're not doing anything outrageous in the water, like that doesn't make sense or something, if you're happy, you'll be fine. Like you swim fast, you know. And that's one of the things that like we always looking forward is to make sure that we understand the athletes on their second step on the pool deck. If there's a good or a bad day, they can do something or not. So to have that connection, that personal connection with everybody on the team.
Awesome, man. I love it. Well, listen, Chico, I appreciate you being the first guest on my new platform. Still working out the intricacies of this thing, but we'll get it going. But listen, you got an incredible story, and it's only the beginning. It's not the end. We're only just getting going on this thing. So you're an inspiration to a lot of other foreign coaches that see themselves coming to America one day and starting a life here. So thanks for being on the show today, man.
Hey, bro, I appreciate you, man. And then if one day I get far, like super far in my career or something, I want everybody to know that like a lot of it is thanks to you. And I appreciate all you give, all the opportunities you gave me. And then I appreciate being here today. It was awesome. It was a great conversation, man.
Well, listen, man, you've said that to me multiple times, and I appreciate it every time. But you know, a lot of this is due to you. So, congrats, man, and keep up the good work. All right.
Thank you, brother.
All right. See you, bud.
Yeah.